Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video over on Ark Survival Ascended, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about the 10 most underused, actually overpowered items that people should add to their repertoire, both for PvE and for PvP. So we're going to go and get started with that real quick off the bat with my number one item, and that is the electric prod. Now, people don't understand the value of the electric prod or why it is actually useful in any way, shape, or form, because it kind of looks like it's a one-use terrible thing that why would you even bother, right? However, there's quite a few good reasons. But before we get into those, if you don't mind, smash that like button, leave a comment below for that awesome algorithm, and then consider subbing to the channel for some awesome Ark content. So anyways, that's my plug for you. So the electric prod immediately does 250 plus torpidity, depends on if you have a base model or not, and it bypasses all armor except for riot armor. So if you're playing in PvP, you can actually get a good sprint on and literally knock anybody out with this. Or if you're not playing PvP, you can knock this and basically any like lower level or mid-tier dino out with a 256 immediate pulse on it. And it's not actually just a one-use thing. Believe it or not, it's actually super simple to fix. Once you use one of these, the only thing that you need to bring it back to working status is repairing it with angler gel. So it's not just a one-time use, you just basically have to recharge it using angler gel, and it's actually quite useful, simply due to the fact, especially more so for PvP than it is for PvE. But if you get a higher level one as well, because you can technically get some of these at like journeyman and highest level being like ascendant, you can basically knock anybody in the entire game out just with one swing. Now it will use electricity or energy of it. You just, where'd it go? Man, crazy. So see how it uses the Dura to take a swing at it, but it doesn't, the Dura does not actually affect how much damage it does, but you can see you can repair it with angler gel. So it's a huge advantage to have a prod. Now, next on my list, this one is more for a PvE sake, but actually can be very useful for PvP. The combination of having a camera and painting. Now, for those of you that didn't even know that the camera was a thing inside of Ark, it is. It's right here. And it's actually got a really good use. You just need to know how to use it. If you right-click to go into something like I just did right here, and then take a picture, right? It's going to save a picture to your Ark. Now, what you can then do with that is you can go ahead and take a paintbrush, just like this right here, right? Go up to it and swing. And then you can click on the things that you want to upload. So you can see where it says save paint, load paint, do all these things. If you click load paint, you can take a screenshot using what I just did right there. And it'll tell you exactly what you need in order to actually make a perfect painting for it. And you can kind of just like figure out how you want to get it done. So notice how I've got some of this stuff, but I'm actually needing quite a bit more of the paint overall. You can actually apply this paint and create the actual screenshot of everything, which is kind of cool in my opinion. It's a super useful technique to be able to use that, and then you can literally just take a screenshot or whatever you want of your creature. And as long as you have the right paint, now there are a ton of paints now, so keep that in mind. So like I've got a bunch right there, you can see them, right? And those paints can actually be used to create an exact replica of a screenshot. So you can actually have like a picture of your dinos, of yourself, or whatever you want it to be in your base. And it's a kind of a neat feature in order to be able to access that. For PvP purposes, it can also be useful. If you're not able to share your screen with somebody, you can paint somebody's base up there and then kind of like talk about what you want to do. I know that sounds weird, but just knowing how to use them is a fun little feature. So kind of fun. Now, the next thing on our list, and I find people do not ever use this, and they really should. So in order to get access into some really awesome stuff, you need to start making recipes. Now, in order to make recipes, it's not very difficult. All you need to do is know how to do it. So just getting a few berries or any resource that you can consume can be turned into a recipe. Now, in order to do that, you literally just take whatever recipe resource you want and a note inside of a cooking pot. And once you do that, you're going to have the option. It does not need to be turned on, by the way. You can click where it says disable autocraft, and it'll let you make a food or a drink. Now, using both of these combinations, if you haven't seen my video on how to make recipes, you can basically get it. So a recipe will give you some insane statistics. So I'm going to go ahead and go to drink just because, right? Once you click make recipe, it's going to create a recipe for your inventory. If you have a crafting skill character, mind wiped into crafting skill, every single thing can be broken. You can see how I can have water, health, stamina, and crafting skill on that, you can basically have it so that it's going to give you full water, full health, and full stamina for both a drink and a burger, or whatever you want to call it, food. So you never need to actually carry anything around other than 2 good recipes. It's one of the most useful things in the game. However, less than like 20% of people that I know actually use the trick. I really recommend using dodo eggs. Dodo eggs are very useful for it, and then some just raw meat if you want to use that as well, if it's a little too expensive for dodo eggs. So those are pretty awesome. Now, the next thing on our list is the harpoon. Now, the harpoon is one of the most undervalued things inside of Ark, actually. On land, the harpoon can still be fired, and it does quite a significant chunk of damage, but that's not why you should check out the harpoon. You should check out the harpoon for the ability to use the trank spears. Now, these technically give you, I guess, 4 times as much initial and overall narcotic to a creature as a crossbow would. So if I was to go into the ocean and use one of these, you are 4 times better both on land and in the ocean using a spear bolt to knock something out. Because just at prim value, both of these, a primitive crossbow will provide you with 90 total narcotic to a creature, whereas this guy is going to provide you with around 400 per shot. So it does have a little bit of drop off, so you just got to be careful about close range. It's got about the same reload speed as a what's it called, as a crossbow. However, the one benefit is this one has a little bit more punch once you actually pick it up. Now, the bolts are pick upable, so you can pick them back up, and spear bolts do quite a bit of damage to creatures. So that it can be very useful. Underwater, these bolts travel exponentially further, and they go much better distance with a little bit of a tracking feature as well, so that can be quite useful. So definitely start thinking about using the harpoon gun for actually knocking things out. It's very, very useful, especially if you're playing on a server that allows higher level harpoon guns. So next on my list, whether you're playing PvP or PvE, this one is kind of a combo one: gas grenades and gas traps. So gas grenades are insanely powerful in PvP purposes because you can throw them and then land them, and they will open up a total of a 3x3 space. So I can go above it so you can see. There you go. A 3x3 space that will sit and narcotic somebody out. Now, it's incredibly useful for defending against stegos or people that are soaking, because you can throw one of these, and most people do not have gas masks on, so you're going to be able to knock them out right away just using a couple of gas grenades. Now, in a PvE sense, yes, this can be used. However, if you knock something out with the gas grenade, it will not count for your tame. So if you were to knock something out, you can see it affects humans, and it doesn't knock anything out, but there's really only useful against things in PvP. Sorry, I meant to say that. But the other thing that I was going to talk about is what I want to bring up. So the narcotic tripwire, this will knock anything out, right? So the narcotic tripwire, just so you can see it right there, 2 of these nearby each other. However, the Noxus effect renders creatures untamable that are directly knocked out by it. So what that means is you can actually use these traps to get a creature started. Right? So if I was to put one of these traps down and go over the top of it, you cover just about the same distance as a narcotic grenade. However, it produces a very quick amount of narcotic to any creature or human. And it's an immediate effect, so you cannot outrun it. So it's going to immediately blast you with narcotic, which is quite useful actually, because it's going to give you a ton of initial boost to your narcotic. So if you're taming something that needs quite a bit more narcotic to actually knock it out, you can start by laying down 3 or 4 of these things and then using your crossbow to do the final damages. It's quite a bit of a burst, so be aware of that, because running over one of these in a PvP situation will basically immediately knock out just about any character, and they can be hidden very well. So just be aware of that. So you can see right there, they cover quite a bit of distance. So definitely keep an eye on the gas grenades and the gas traps. Now, next up on our list is another thing that people do not use enough, both for PvE and PvP, and you just saw me make one actually. That is your blood extraction syringe. Now, it's going to take a percentage chunk of your health in order to use the blood extraction syringe, but in results, it's going to give you blood packs. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a ability to basically heal your character over time, and you can combine blood packs with med brews and basically increase the amount of healing you're able to do at a much faster rate. All right, and next on our list is going to be the traps. Using traps is one of the most amazing things in this game once you figure out how to use them both for PvP and for PvE. So you can see that the bear trap will immobilize human and any small creature, right? So this includes yourself, so be careful of that. If you get stuck in this, there is no way to, you kind of have to sit and wait for it to get it undone. They are very powerful, and they give you quite a bit of range, actually. It's not just over the top of it. There's a little bit of range on the outside that you can use in order to trap a player or a small creature. However, the more useful one is the large bear trap. Large bear traps can catch any medium or large size dino, and it will basically take them and immobilize them, giving you free reign for about 10 to 15 seconds of actually holding the trap down. Now I'll go ahead and walk over one of these just so you can see whether I'm in admin mode or not. It will trap you in place, and the same thing applies to a large bear trap. For taming things like Giganotosauruses, Rexes, Stegos, anything that's more difficult to tame, especially if you're mid to early game, throwing down a large bear trap will allow you to walk up and essentially put down just about anything you want around that creature, and it gives you a huge advantage. Now you can also see that this right now, this is the bear trap. I can sit here and I can actually try and damage it, and that's one of the best ways to get rid of it, but it can sit and hold you for quite a while. There's no super special ways to get out of it. It sucks to be in one of these things, but you can actually, I mean, I'm just going to get rid of it by using this, but you know, whatever. It will lock someone in place for quite a while. So bear traps can be very useful, especially if someone's knocked out on the ground. You can be funny and put a bear trap under them, and they will be stuck in place for a good chunk of time. And the same thing, it goes for the dinos, but they only do 10 to 15 seconds, so keep that in mind. Now, next thing on my list is actually the beer barrel. Beer barrels are capable of making beer inside of Ark, which is a very useful substance. One, they can tame Calicotheriums for PvE purposes, which have a turret mode and throw poop, or whatever it's like. I guess it's like spoiled meat or something like that, technically. But they do a ton of damage with their turret attack. And then, for PvP purposes, it's called a beer run. If you drink beer before running into your turrets, it's going to greatly reduce your incoming damage taken. So beer is incredibly useful inside of Ark for either taming things or reducing damage. If you're going to a PvE area where you know you're going to soak a ton of damage, it's nice to have a few beer jars nearby where you can reduce the amount of damage you take overall. Now, next up on my list is kind of a combo deal of a ton of different stuff. Knowing how to use your consumables is one of the most valuable things inside of Ark, and people do not use them enough. There are small boosts that you can get from every consumable in the game. Anything from, or common, Mind Wipe Tonic. This one rewipes your points. Obviously, most people know about these because they're useful. However, things like Battle Tartar, the curry, the pastes, all kinds of different stuff will give you huge boosts. As long as you're paying attention to the individual stats that it gives you, these things can be crazy. You can see this, right? Battle Tartar is going to give you 50% increase in melee damage, 50% move speed, and damage resistance, as well as a little bit of stamina regeneration. However, it's going to make you consume food, water, and health. So keep that in mind. But if you haven't seen how to use that, you can use these things to get some crazy stuff done. I use a Battle Tartar to kill Alpha, what's it called, Dragon. There's a lot of crazy things that you can do, including breathing underwater using a Lazarus Chatter. If you didn't know you can use Lazarus Chatter to breathe underwater for 10 minutes in Ark, it enables you to do that, which is a super useful thing. So all of these things are very useful, just learning how to use them. Consumables, I know it sounds crazy, but when you pick it up, start learning about, there's like 10 or 15 different consumables that you can use, and they all give boosts, and people don't use them enough. Anything from move speed, increased health, increased stamina, everything. So having a bunch of those ready to go is a very valuable asset. Now, the last thing on my list that can be useful for PvP or PvE is metal or any type of fence foundation, right? When it comes to building, these allow you to snap things in place, which can be very useful, and rotate however you want, putting walls down. And some creatures even see these as walls, so they will not step over them, which is kind of funny if you think about it. And it's a super useful thing to be able to kind of build a curved wall without putting down a single foundation. These essentially count as half the value of a foundation, so they take a little bit less to kill on PvP than a regular foundation, but they're much harder to spot, so these can be used for spam at a much more effective rate than a foundation, because it's so hard to spot these if I just start tossing them in random locations around the map. And then you can also use the metal fence supports in order to kind of build out these structure looking things like you see me doing right here. And you can actually use these for PvP because you can place turrets on top of them or on the side of them. and it allows you to build kind of at angles out from just about any area, and then building on top of it. It's just a really good feature to use. People typically just go with the foundations instead of even thinking about the fence foundations or the fence foundation supports. They are very valuable assets, so definitely check them out. So that's a lot of stuff. I know that I just talked about it all. Those are all things that can be OP in certain scenarios, but are heavily underused or even never used by some players. I know some of you are thinking right now, I've never even thought that was inside of Ark. And yeah, check it out. Some of these things can be very useful, and you really want to start using some of them, because I use almost everything in Ark in a given situation, and they can all be useful. So I'm sure there are other things that I missed. If you want to leave them in the comments below, some of the valuable things to update all these other players, because there's a ton of new players that are coming to play ASA. So definitely give that a shout out. But other than that, if you don't mind, smack that like button, leave a comment below again for that algorithm, and then consider subbing for some more Ark content. Other than that, teach.